I guess I'm here with 2023 legend or last half legend Virtue, back from hiatus, taking MSBL by storm. Do you want to give yourself an intro?
All right then. Hi, I am Virtue, or Vert for short. That's how they call me around the server usually. I'm a three-time MSBL singles live event winner, and I've never placed outside of top five throughout my entire life playing the game. I am a top three player in the game. Well, that probably isn't an argument at this point, but I am in competition to be the best player in the world. Other than that, thanks for having me on this interview, HK.
Yeah, I mean, I think even last year you probably could have been interviewed. You were still top five then, but I think everyone has gone through cycles. Like Zesty's a bit inactive right now. Um, you were inactive for a while, but still managed to stick around. I guess maybe that's just like innate gamer instinct. But I feel
Yeah,
like
kind of.
you hopped back into it and never really lost a beat. I guess to myself that's like a little bit unsurprising. I think that was your first friendly match on the server. Like when you're brand new to the server, you were like looking for friendlies at some odd hour. I was like, okay, I'll play this guy. And I was kind of mind blown. I think you were the best player I'd ever played. Like even at that time, there were like other players like Matty J and Ulti who were pretty
Yeah.
good in NA. But I mean, you were just on like another level. Like there's basically nothing I could really do against you.
It was quite a familiar time. Unfortunately, I can't exactly remember anything besides the fact that I played Luigi, and Luigi was a bad like character, but I still became like top one in WHR in the server in like 3 minutes using Luigi. So yeah, that was cool. I don't know. I didn't know how good I was essentially, but yeah, I was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think like WHR, I feel like was kind of hard at that time because the thing is there were really few tournaments where like EU and NA would meet up. So back in like summer of 2022, we still had a huge player base from the release of the game, and oftentimes there would be splits. So basically, like EU would have its own split, NA would have its own split, and you'd rarely see the top players from both regions converge um, until like either internationals, which happened on a split by split basis, or like worlds. So it was kind of hard to evaluate. I think in EU though, like eh, there was kind of a its own triumph for it, like Monitor, um, Romomo, and you. But
Yeah, they were like the top three then essentially in the EU.
yeah, I I think so. But like at that time, like when you initially joined the server, did you think that you'd take MSBL so competitively or seriously? Like,
When I joined the server, I specifically joined the server to be the best at the game. Because when I was playing outside the server, when the game was like at its peak in terms of popularity, I was aiming to up my win rate in clubs, regardless of like pity items and hypers and all that. I was still able to get like 96 wins out of 100 with my brother, like in singles matches. Me and my brother both like grinded for Bulberic, and we just got 100 games each, and we had like 90+% win rate. So I was like, I need to up myself here. I need to join a competitive scene. There has to be a competitive scene. So I went and I searched Google. It's a Discord server. I joined the Discord server, and immediately I was like, oh wait, I'm actually really good. Oh, okay. So yeah, essentially, it's like I didn't exactly know I was gonna be this good until I actually found out how good I was, and I was like, yep, this is the game that I'm gonna play competitively. So yeah, that if that answers the question, then yeah, that's pretty much it. I see because like when a new game comes out, my mentality was when a new game comes out, you can be the best at it like right then and there. And I don't like go into existing games like Smash or like let's say Omega Strike and be like, I'm gonna be the best at this, and I come like a year late or something. Like obviously I'm not gonna be better than them. But when it with MSBL, it was like, okay, everyone's shit. I'm probably shit, but that doesn't mean that we're complete trash because I can still beat these guys. I know there's a lot more to be explored in the game, but they're going to get destroyed anyways. And I'm going to figure out how to find the best things, the best exploits, the best moves, the best mind games, and destroy all of them. And that was my mentality when walking into the competitive scene.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess what went through your mind then when you had to take hiatus and like a break? I mean, obviously, I think there's a lot of players with competing responsibilities, whether that's the group of players who are like actual family people and fathers, or like down to the players who are in college, or for you taking A levels. Um, but I mean, like at that point, how did that feel to not be able to attend like last year's Worlds and stuff?
Not attending last year's World Championships was it was like a dagger to the heart essentially because I was at that point where I was going pretty much even with Zesty, and yeah, it was quite difficult for me not to attend Worlds at that time. So essentially it just felt heartbreaking, but how I felt about my skill in general and how I thought my skill would transpire among the time I was off and how coming back might have affected me, I wasn't really that worried. I said to myself, if I come back and I just do exactly what I've been doing for the past like months before, then I can reach the top spot again. And as long as I keep my head up, then it's fine. And yeah, that's essentially what I was feeling back then.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I also forgot that like 2 questions ago I dropped my audio, but it still makes sense contextually even without my audio. But I was gonna say, I think like the wave of players who have been really good at this game, kind of most of the top players have just been really good gamers. Besides Zesty, who like this is the first game he's taken competitively, and like is still like fresh in his chops. Like Romomo, you, like Matty J, Alti Chimera, Monder. I feel like they're good at multiple games, and you all just have like a very good mindset and approach in terms of how to improve, but also just have like really raw confidence that picking up a game, if you put in the time and energy, you'll be able to get there. And I think no matter how long you take away from a game, but especially how long you take away from MSBL, you don't really lose that much skill, and you kind of showed that when you came back in 2023 more actively. Um, did you like did you expect the community, I guess, to be there in 2023? Because I think towards the end of 2022, there's kind of like, well, there are two divisions. Like first, when the last patch dropped, I think some people finally concluded, hey, Splatoon's out, Omega Strikers is out, whatever other game is out, and this game's done with content. So if I don't like the game now, I probably won't like it later, which is definitely fair. And then towards the end of 2022, like some of the more competitive players who may have been active previously, Worlds was over. They were like, time to move on. But I think 2023, we actually still saw like a good amount of consistent competitors. I mean, obviously, maybe not as much as game release, but maybe a few more than what people initially thought.
Yeah, that is true. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that without 1.3, this game would be done dead in the water, and we'd all be playing SMS, Mario Strikers Charge. We would mod our Wii's, we would mod our Wii U's, we would go there instead, go to Splatoon, go to Omega Strikers, because 1.2, 1.1, and 1.0 was the downside of this game. It was complete garbage, and no one would ever, except Zesty, because he was the best at the time, put their time into the game. And that's why Zesty was so high in the top, is
Zesty was
because
actually not good in 1.2. It wasn't. What actually happened was in September split, a week before the live tournament, a week before patch 1.3 dropped, and Zesty was practicing, and he adapted to the patch the best. That's in part why that tournament run kind of is like a little bit, I think, infamous amongst the losers because they both were contending with having to play competitively in a new patch which just dropped like a little bit before the tournament, but also because Zesty came out and just knew his way around the AI and the weird shots in a way which the other competitors didn't at the time.
Yeah, it's typical Zesty, really. He had all the time in the world to do all that stuff, because like obviously the guy's he's in school, so he just come home after 6 hours. He just does it, and I'm sure I was doing the exact same, but like I couldn't exactly play the game at that point, so we were like pretty different. Zesty overall is just a extremely talented player, anyways. So to dominate the competitive scene for as long as he had is still an impressive feat, nonetheless.
Yeah, I think it's a wild mindset. It's also a mature mindset that he like took the step back when he did because I think it's hard to take a step back when you're that good at something, even when faced with competition. But what I was gonna say about the patch, completely agree. I think it's interesting that there are a lot of people who definitely prefer the 1.2 meta, which for context was a lot of heavy long pass plays. Passing was definitely a lot more powerful, and tech was actually just bugged. Like tech didn't work. Um, so I mean, in order to move the ball, you needed to use pass because your players would be so slow on ball. Um, but a lot of players really liked that meta, and some even cited the change and shift in 1.3 as the reason for them leaving. But 1.3 also brought like it wasn't with 1.3 that the team item changes came out. Those came out in a minor patch. So somehow like, the Battle League creators decided, we'll throw in the most useful rules changes and things all within like minor patches or something. Like it didn't really make much sense, but yeah, I think that definitely saved the game.
It did 100%, and it saved. Without 1.3, I wouldn't be playing this game right now. There's just no way. I would be competing in SMS full time instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been playing SMS since release. I got that game on GameCube and I still play it on GameCube pretty frequently. But um one thing I was gonna dig into, which I've dug into with other people in the past in interviews, is like club history, because I think you were pretty active in MSBO clubs, at least to an extent, and you were active in a way which I think was a precursor to many other clubs, in the sense that I got that you started Ballberic um, in order to kind of train others or help coach others and improve, like the first kind of bits of a competitive esque club. Um, but
Yep, that's right.
But what, like, were you in any clubs before Barbaric? Like, take me through your your history in terms of like when you came into MSBL, what clubs you joined, and then like why found Barbaric?
Ballberic was actually the first club that I was in, actually. When I came to the server, I immediately made Ballberic. I made Ballberic before I came to the server, actually. And I said to myself, how can I advertise Barbaric? So I went to Reddit, and Reddit was very popular at the time. So I advertised to Reddit. I got a lot of Reddit people. I made my own Discord server. It's like we came together. I made a bunch of roles, decorated it, made it pretty cool for everyone. I did some like friendly interactions with the members, just overall that sort of like charismatic leader sort of shit that everyone does as the leader. And why found Bull Beric? I founded Bull Beric mainly because I wanted to create a club that was fair amongst the rules at first. Because before in clubs, it was about who could collect the most points, who could grind the most. And I wanted to create a club that didn't force you to grind as much, that had fair rules. And most importantly, worshipped Roman Reigns as their undisputed world heavyweight championship. And that's what I wanted. I wanted something cool and friendly and something to identify people. And that's what made people join, was they didn't have like one levels of expectations on them. And then eventually it changed into when clubs started to like die down on the grinding, it turned into more of a competitive based club, on which I turned it into Bonsai, which was like percentage sign B. That was our little tag that I changed it to. I said, anyone can come in. If you're competitive, come in. I'll coach you. I'll do this. I'll do that. And that's what it was after Barbaric. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Barbaric. When it comes to disbanding the club, I mainly disbanded because I couldn't do my job as a leader considering I was on hiatus. So I was like, nah, I can't do this. I couldn't coach anyone. I couldn't play friendly. So I was like, you guys go on to new heights, find a club better than this. I don't want to. I don't want to not do this. Don't want to not fulfill my roles as a leader, and that's why I disbanded. And that's the Bulbaric history, essentially.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense and aligns with the way a lot of other clubs go. I also think your club had a lot more EU side players of MSBL, like Wande and folks. Um, and it was like a time when I feel like a lot of EU players may have left or may have joined MSC or SMS, which have like a much larger EU community because it's just frankly harder to find like friendlies, rated, etc. Um, once the community becomes like a bit smaller, in your time zone or near your time zone. Um, but I guess like a speed round, which I'm curious about, where would you rank these players today if they played? Um, One Wande.
Wait, so where would I rank my Bulbaric team
Yeah,
today?
yeah. Different members of your
Okay.
barbaric team.
So I would say that WT Benjamin would be like top 5 right now. Like it's not even close. WT Benjamin was probably the greatest player that I trained, and he was like almost taking games off me. That's how good this guy got. And it's unfortunately left the game, considering 1.3 is out. But I understand why he left, and everyone has their own paths. Next, I would say Huande. Definitely Huande would be next if he continued to play. That is, and I would say joint with him would be X Shadow, but they would be joint because Hyundai and X Shadow sort of have the same sort of mentalities when it comes to the game. Like a lot of boom boom complaints, a lot of like, oh, the game's so bad sort of mentality. So I feel like they would be sort of the same sort of skill level. And other than that, no one else was really into competitive that much to my remembrance. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Oh, Debo. Oh shit, yeah, we had Debo. Debo, if he like straight up continued to play right now and he was still in Bulberic, I reckon he would be like the same level as Juan Day and X Shadow, like I mentioned. They would all be like top 20 players, in my opinion. All be top 20. And that's pretty much it. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's fun to do redrafts of old clubs, because the members sometimes are so wacky. Like WNT, for example, like we had a couple of players who were decent at the time, like Jelly and Zesty towards the end of WNT started coming up, but in the middle he was still growing. Um, I was there, but I wasn't that good in WNT days. I just didn't have the time to like. I would grind, but I wouldn't really. It takes like a certain focus mindset, I think, to improve. And my focus wasn't on really improving. I was just trying to like waste some time. And then
Yeah.
Ink
Right.
was Ink was on WNT, but it was kind of funny. Like when he initially joined, like the owner of WNT at the time was like, I don't know, should we take him? He was like looking for like superstar or something level players at a certain point, and I was just like, no, yeah, we should take Ink because Ink has like one of the best growth mindsets I think of any player, and you can see it like pretty
See it
actively now.
today.
Yeah, he's that guy. And I mean, like, I remember like vouching for him for WNT, and I was like, yeah, this guy's gonna be great.
Yeah, there's a lot I need to talk about Ink as well. Ink, it's a bit scary now.
Yeah, the land's definitely gonna improve it. I think manual is definitely it's the uncharted frontier to an extent. Like Ink's charted out some chunk of it, but we haven't seen it go deep enough in tourneys quite yet. Um, and I mean, I think some initial thought of it was that, with manual, like way back in 22, there were a few months, like I think between September and November of 22, where I just decided to just play manual. But I mean, I could only get back up to like star level before I started getting like frustrated with like missing team tackles and stuff. Those mechanics I just didn't like thoroughly understand the way Ink does. And I thought that the team tackle mechanic could bypass some weaknesses with like low passing and stuff. Like, why have passing if you can just team tackle your character forward? Um, but now with like a better understanding of the game and like with all the innovation that Ink's done on that front, I think it's kind of like, I mean, to a certain extent, you can bypass it. Like the movement and stuff he does is crazy. Um, but yeah, we can talk about that a bit more later. Um, all right, so we talked about.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing. It's okay.
Yeah, I think there's plenty to say about Manual and Ink and what we're looking forward to in Worlds a bit later. So we talked about barbaric and clubs. Um, we talked about like your intro to the competitive scene. What did it feel like to get back into the like fray of things in 2023? Like when you first returned, was it immediately like, oh yeah, I'm gonna dominate, or was that something was settled in?
When I first came back, I didn't have an expectation to dominate, but I wanted to like give people a full sense of security that they would be better than me. So like I immediately hopped back into friendlies and played X Shadow. And then X Shadow like really gave me a run for my money. And he faced me in like a rated match and he lost 2-1. But he was like, bro, it was golden goal. It was this because Excel likes to do this a lot. He likes to say he was only 3 goals down. Therefore, he gave him a run for his money. And
Yo,
he always points
just
out
a
the
note here.
really
Three
small
goals is
things.
massive in MSBL. Like
It
losing
is.
by 3 goals, like in the teams only thing. Like okay, when there's RNG items, maybe you could justify, oh, they got like a few extra items here, which made the difference. But with team items, 3 goals is huge.
Yeah, like Excel likes to spot like really small things that are like really specific to the match. Like one day I could be playing like really, really good, and one day I could be playing like shit, but also still destroying people. And it's like, well, if you're gonna point out these small things, then beat me. Just win. Like there's a difference between winning and coming close. Like there's better ways to see progress than in the match. I would say the best way to see a progress versus a certain player is winning. Just win. Win a friendly. One friendly is enough. If you can't win, then there's not really much of a point in pointing out the small things because different like mistakes and good plays can vary amongst the matches play. Like one match you could make good plays and one match you could make bad. It's mainly about consistency and one day you could catch me on a bad match and eventually you could just take that one match and be like, yes, I came this close to beating Virtue. And it's like, come on, you gotta win though. You gotta win. And that's my opinion on that, essentially.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's kind of weird. Like some people really weight friendlies super heavily, but I think friendlies is like a chance to experiment and to fail fast, so you can identify like what the gaps in your play are. And there's totally a different level of intensity between a friendly and a rated match, and a rated match and a tournament match, and a tournament and like a fun tournament match versus like MSL. Like in different amounts of effort, and it's kind of evident. Um, but
Yeah, essentially.
uh,
But back to the question though, how I felt like did I think that I was gonna dominate? No, I said I did not think I was going to dominate at all. And but I did, what I did think though, was that I was going to be the best again and that I was going to not place outside of top five. And like, yeah, though the one thing I didn't expect was losing to Richie. Richie was, it was a dagger. That was like have I lost it? Am I done? Is this it now? And look at me now. Everything that I said before, and it's come to life, and now I'm like top three in the world. So nothing really has changed.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue top one ever since you kind of busted your bracket demon in Romomo. I guess like yeah, I was kind of curious about that too, because you and Romomo play a lot of friendlies against one another. Um, and I mean, for a little while, Romomo had the advantage in terms of he had been consistently playing, or at least relatively consistently playing, as compared to you, for a while. Um, and he was definitely hungry for it. With Zesty finally kind of like shooing out of the way. How did you kind of overcome that hurdle? Because you didn't really play Zesty that much when you got back. I feel like maybe for the first like month or so with the close of invitationals, but Zesty had already kind of announced retirement, and so like you kind of overcame that gap pretty quickly between him playing less and you playing more. But then with Romo, that was like a back and forth for a bit.
Yeah, that's true. How did I overcome the hurdle of the players above me, like Romamo and Zesty? Well, I couldn't overcome Zesty back then, but how did I overcome Romamo and all those people? I essentially did it through taking as many friendlies as I could. So back then, I played Romamo a lot, like you said, and those friendlies versus Romamo really taught me a lot about the meta that was happening in the current patch because I couldn't take part in the current patch. So Romamo taught me a lot about how the patch worked and things I can get used to because like I was fully onto the board that passing was still the thing. So like I was like 15 passing, use 15 passing, and then people were like, "You don't know anything about this metaverse." And I was like, "No, I do, because I'm arrogant like that. I feel like I know everything sometimes. I happen to be arrogant sometimes." So I was wrong. I found out quickly that I was wrong throughout all my friendlies that I played. I started losing to legends, and I was like, "What's going on?" So then to I switched to Peach Captain, and I switched to Toad, Double Toad. That was my main thing because obviously I was a anti Waluigi enthusiast. I was like, no Waluigi at all, and that's what I did. I did Peach Double Toad, and I when I did the grudge match versus Zesty, I took a game, and I was like, yes, let's go. And turns out, yeah, they were all right. So how I overcame the hurdles, uh, I would say that it was just sticking to it, really. Just
I
staying to the game and not giving up. It seems pretty cliche, but that's it, really. You can't really let any of your downfalls affect you. You just got to keep going and not complain and keep playing people, grinding, keeping the mentality. And that's essentially all that came to it, really.
I think okay, all right. Well, let's dig into that a bit more because I do think that's a pretty high level answer in terms of cliche. It makes sense. I think you have a really like top tier mentality. Like your mental game is very strong. Whenever I've seen you play, um, I mean, this is all the way back to like even internationals. Like in high pressure situations, you definitely clutch up. Um, but like, what goes through your mind even within a game? Like, I guess I'll break it down this way. Like, with between sets, between a game and in game, like, what do you look for? Like, how do you identify that you're improving or making adaptations? Because I think previously you touched on, hey, winning friendlies is a good sign of progress. And I think that's definitely true. But before you get there, I feel like there's smaller markers where like you have to identify what a good game really is. Like you can lose and you can play well, or you can lose and you can play poorly. And I feel like losing and playing poorly is like a terrible situation to be in. Like you didn't give it your all. losing and playing well is like potentially a sign of improvement if that makes sense, even though it's like not quite there.
Yeah, I get that. How do I identify small things?
Because let me give you an
Uh,
example. Like I remember talking with Zesty like last year, and one thing that he would do is he talks to himself while he plays. So if like a player, you know, if a player like pre-tackles, like they tackled his character before they received a cross pass, he would like yell that out, and then next time he would like Zesty dodge or something, right? And you can kind of see it in his play too. Like play one, he'll get tackled. Play two, he'll Zesty dodge, um, or things like that.
yeah, it is very impressive how he mixes up his gameplay. Hmm. But how do I? So was the question, how do I how do I adapt, or how do I realize small
Yeah.
little
I
improvements?
guess how do you adapt? How do you think about your improvement? Like, because I mean, it's one thing to just play the friendlies, right? But I think just playing the friendlies without really actively thinking about the game, um, can land you in situations where you adopt bad habits too. But maybe you don't as actively think since you've been a competitive gamer for so long. Maybe it's just natural for you to find those like little bits or little inputs which are slightly off and like adjust. So I guess maybe it's a
Sort
more
of.
difficult question.
Well, I actually think I have an answer for it. So when I have a troublesome opponent, what I do is I write down things that they do a lot on my notes app, and I have that next to me during friendlies so I can figure out what I'm doing. And when I succeed in that so many times, I can remove that from the list. Well, actually, no, I can't remove that from the list. I'm going to keep it there because until they like stop doing it, essentially. But overall, it's just something to look out for because I'm not going to remember everything a player does unless it's like Romomo because I've played him a million times. But let's say I play Ink, and Ink's obviously he's got a different sort of play style, so I have to adjust my counterplay to a different level. So I use Notes app and I just write down what they do, write down what I'm doing wrong, and during friendlies, I just adapt accordingly to what he does. Like, let me actually pull up one of my things that I have with ink. It's somewhere here.
I mean, that's
So
yeah.
here we
While you're
go.
looking that up, I think that's an interesting commonality between you and Zesty that you're both in Notes app jotting down your opponent's like you know, common traits, characteristics to help adapt. Two out of the top three
Yeah.
players now do that.
I mean,
That's like,
essentially, a lot of top players do it in Smash as well. Like Dabuz, for example. Dabuz, what he does, he has a whole document on everything, on players, characters, matchups, the lot, and it's just impressive what he's written. So loads of top players already do it, which is why some people are afraid to face top players in friendlies. Though the best part about being top three is you get infinite friendlies because everyone's below you. Everyone wants top player. Everyone wants to face the best player in the world. Everyone wants to face top three. So you get everyone. And when you're at that position, you're just not afraid that people are going to beat you. Unless it's like, unless it's, actually, no, nobody. That no one. Ink may be like the next upcoming player, but I would give him as many friendlies as he wants because he he can adapt to me, sure, whatever. I'll adapt to him as well. I've got mine. We will play a game. Who can adapt the furthest? And I'm confident that I can adapt more than him. So I'll give him as much friendlies as I want. I'm not here to play games. I'm here to play Mario Strikers Battle League. That's the only game I'm
well,
willing to play.
it's
That's
like
my mentality for that.
oh sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I ended there.
I was just gonna say though, I mean like there's few players in any sort of competitive game, especially like Battle League where it's so heavily dependent on your opponent's like play style, really, and your adaptations to it. But even in like Melee, for example, like there's only one player who really was at that top level with mostly just playing AI or keeping to themselves, and that was Mewtwo King. I mean, like
Yeah,
it's pretty rare. I feel like in a competitive game to find players who are top caliber, who don't play friendlies or don't give up any information outside. You have to give up information outside. That's like the trade you make. But it's just you have to be better at adapting and better at overall in order to come out on top.
yeah, exactly. That's pretty much how it is. You just can't be afraid. Just don't be afraid of giving up information to people unless it's like right before a set. Like that's the only thing. And because if you're afraid, you can't grind. If you can't grind, you can't get better and you can't get more consistent. So you've got to do it essentially. And that's pretty much my take on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. How did it feel once you overcame like the Romo bracket demon?
When I overcame Romomo like a few weeks ago, I said to myself, I've got to win a tournament now because I can't suddenly say that I'm the best if I haven't won a tournament. If I win Split, I'm the best in the world. No one can say anything else. No one can say that I'm not the best after I've won that because we're even. We're even players. Everyone knows that we're even. We know that we're even. And if he loses to me, sure, you've lost. But I reverse. When you were 2-0 up, I won 4 matches in a row. So what does that say? Is the question. What does that say about me and my gameplay? And it said to everyone, yeah, Virtue's the best in the world. He won 4 games in a row versus Romo in a rated match. He's the best. But to me, it's like I haven't won yet. He can still reclaim that by beating me 2 sets in a row. It's not over yet. When
Yeah,
I delete him, that's it. I'm the best. And I will continue that in World Championships, hopefully, when I win that too. And once I win Worlds, um, I don't know. I don't know what's next for me. That's what I have to say on that.
I appreciate that you just said once I win Worlds. Like, no doubt. I mean, you're definitely a heavy favorite. I'm curious to see how like Zesty and Romo fare, and also how like Ink and Gamer Snow do, especially from like the rest of the bracket. Um, I think one thing that's interesting to me too is that you said I need to delete him in order to like claim I'm the best, and I think that's something which is more evident probably to you than maybe it is to general like strikers community. I think there's a lot of like back and forth on individual sets. Um, but really in order to like be ranked ahead of someone or like be better than someone, you need to really gap them. Like I think when like for example Zesty was dominating in the first half of the year, like he was clearly number one because no one
Clearly,
was taking games off of him, like let alone sets. Um, but if it's like back and forth, it makes it a lot more difficult, I think, to evaluate. Like the reason 4 through like say 11 or 12 is so weirdly contentious is that there's a huge rotation of who takes sets off who, and it's pretty short-lived. Like it tends to rotate like once every 2, 3 months, as soon as like another player adapts. So it's pretty tumultuous below top three, which is why those rankings are so like variable versus top three is like pretty consistent.
that is true. Yeah, some people below top three is like you've just got us three, and then you got everyone else. It was pretty difficult to. It's pretty difficult right now to rank all of them.
I think there's like a decent gap after you hit like 12 or something. But then like yeah, 4 through 12 is pretty vague. I think Loaf, Jay, and Samurai I'd put in that like immediate next tier based off like tournament results, and Ink is like a viable contender because he hasn't really attended tournaments, so it's hard to evaluate. Um, but yeah, we'll see at Worlds. Since everyone's there, it'll be a
Yeah, we'll
good
see.
run. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess we talked about like rivals. We talked about like overcoming Romo. I think we covered a lot of like the background stuff that I initially had to discuss. But I mean, we should talk a little bit about Worlds. I think we referenced this a bit earlier, um, in terms of like when we were talking about Ink. But we now have the full roster for Worlds. We have you, Romomo, Zesty, um, Loaf. Hold on, I'm just gonna pull up the list. That way I make sure I really don't miss
All
anyone.
right, that's cool.
Otherwise, I'm
It
just
might
gonna
be a little bit of background noise from me since I got brothers in the house.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. All right, so we got Romomo, Zesty, Loaf, you, me, Jay, Richie, Truth, Samurai, Trippy, Momo, Inc., J Bangs, Blue Duck, and we have Styx and Gamer Snow, who just finished qualifiers. Congrats to them. Um, Styx just barely stack ranked list.
There you go.
Oh wait,
Hmm.
actually, sorry, I'm gonna swap at the bottom.
Momo and Trippy. That is very. I didn't think they were in Momo and Trippy.
They've like consistently shown up to play. And I mean, once you get down to that level, it's just kind of like it's there's huge variation depending on who showed up consistently and not. Um, Momo's consistently shown up. He's had some like decent results as compared to those below him in the list, um, right?
Oh, that's true.
And then Trippy as well, like because he won challengers for Split, he's had some like decent results in like some lives. Um, I mean, you have to consider it's top 16, so like
Yeah. Oh, do you mind if I change? Well, mind if I like be right back real quick?
no worries.
All right, one sec.
All right, sounds good. So basically, what we could do is we could, I think, start from the top seed because I think those we're most likely to align on, and I think are least surprising. And then we'll talk through like each competitor, kinda.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. So it
Okay.
sounds cool.
All right. I think my top seed is yourself. I don't know if you feel differently, but
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty logical right now.
yeah, I think you've had the most consistent results. Like you haven't gapped between like Romomo and Zesty maybe quite as much. Maybe Zesty since he's like rusty. Um, but it's mostly between you and Romomo right now in terms of like how active you've been, how much you've dominated the rest of the competition. Um, and I think given recent results, you have like the slight edge on Romomo, but like you were saying, that's really up to like how this league finishes, which is still ongoing. And also how Worlds results happen. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, um, yeah, Romomo obviously, I think number two, like
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah, and then Zesty because even with such a long like gap, I mean I've been playing him in friendlies. He's still even with the rust, like he's still so good. like
Does he still play? Does he still play friendlies in the Evo server?
well I just hit him up for friendlies every once in a while. So like we played a couple times last week. Um, yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's being that active. I think he's just like derusting a little bit. Um, we'll
Just
see
keeping in shape.
we'll see how actively he takes worlds.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll see.
yeah. All right. I think four is where we'll probably have like the first difference. Who do you have at fourth?
Fourth, I am most worried for outside of the top other three. Ink. Ink is just someone that I don't want to play right now. I really don't want to play him because he's getting very scary and his manual play style is it's quite annoying to play versus and it's something that I don't think that I want to play right now. So yeah, that's essentially Ink at the moment, but I'm still confident that I can beat him because we're all consistent in different ways and I believe that I'm more consistent than him right now. So we'll see when it comes to Ink.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely been improving a lot. I think for a long while, like he was not taking Titans as aggressively as he could be, and that was kind of stifling the efficiency of his offense. Um, he was just struggling to score at all, and like now he's picked up the Titans a lot more, and you can see like the dramatic improvement in his offense, especially off of like team tackles and mushroom slides and things like that, um, which make him a big threat.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is that like whenever players show up who kind of buck the meta a little bit, like Richie did in his initial tournament, really, it's kind of challenging to adapt because those playstyles are so uncommon, and there's no one else at a high level who plays manual like Ink. So you have to like play him in friendlies, or you won't get this exposure, and it's just challenging to adapt to because it's so different from like an auto playstyle. The heavy like team tackle um, focus is really frustrating to play against.
It is. It's extremely frustrating to play versus. Just, uh, it's bringing back memories already. But we'll see in Worlds. We'll see how good he does. Best of three, best of seven, whatever it is, I'll beat him anyways. Hear that, Ink? I'm gonna beat you. Do something about it.
All right, and then I think fifth, like if we both have ink at fourth, I think Loaf takes fifth. He's at least for me, he's been like the next most consistent player, and I mean technically he's been more consistent than Ink since Ink hasn't really been in many tourneys and hasn't played as many rated. Um, but do you have anyone else at fifth, or is it Loaf as well?
I would say it. I would say it is Loaf as well. Yeah, Loaf is extremely consistent player. Won the live event, sure DQs, whatever, but he still had to work hard at the end of the day. And he's been getting pretty consistent placings overall inside top five. I can't remember the last time he placed outside of top five. I think
No,
he's out. Is
he
he out of the
has.
tournament?
So I mean, I think the thing is that like Loaf is so consistent that like I mean, if you look at his placement this year, it's almost similar to how he entered last year's Worlds. Um, but like if you look between, for example, October to now, like basically the last split, right? I'm like 9-8
Mm,
against Loaf in rateds or like in MSL plus other tourney play, which is kind of crazy. But like the swing is wild because in the first half of the split, he was still playing like his old play style, like not the high passing one. Um, and I think that kind of
yeah.
stifled him, and that's why like it shifted it up. And ever since he shifted to the passing play style, his win rate has like definitely gone back to being extremely high. Yeah.
Yeah, Loaf is extremely scary and scares me a little bit, but not that much really. It's obviously I'm like his kryptonite. He's only took one game off me throughout his entire life playing the game, and I think that says a lot about our matchup right now.
Yeah, I think his playstyle really heavily reacts on his opponent not having like a quick reaction time, or at least like it really used to with the previous build he ran with that Bowser Jr., etc. But I mean now with the high passing it's like a little bit more variable just because his shot range has expanded so much. But I mean with the reaction times that you have or like with what Sticks had in that rated match can definitely give him some trouble. Um,
Yeah, it can.
yeah. And then I had Jay. He's gonna be in Worlds, but I don't know how unrusted he is. But he's a bit of a funny player to me. I mean, like even when he comes back, he just has some sort of offense. He's like an offensive savant of MSBL. I swear. Like he just has the weirdest angles, and even though his defense can be like extremely sloppy, like somehow his offense just the ball finds its way into the back of the net, doing the most ridiculous like shot or something. Like he'll take a boom boom
Yeah,
kickoff from Bowser and just like send it to the back. And it works for him. I mean, he made it pretty competitive with Romo in the first half of the year.
yeah. I mean that is typical Jay really. Jay is he kind of just does his own thing in the game. He's all right. He's because he's rusty right now. He's not that good, but when he de-rusts, I reckon that he could probably get back to that sort of top three argumentative again, maybe. But he's like on Omega Strikers right now. I don't think he's going to be playing Battle League anytime soon. So I feel like he's just going to stay in like that sort of top eight sort of place, unless people start figuring him out, which will probably happen pretty soon. Unless you're like not that great. I mean, when someone hasn't been playing for that long, you do see the effects as a player. So he'll be seeing that at World Championships if he doesn't do anything about it, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe similar to Fiery LT Chimera situation from last Worlds. Um,
Yeah, essentially.
yeah, for context, like last Worlds, there was definitely a division between the players who were consistently playing and the players who like dropped for a little bit and then came back. Um, I would say that last Worlds we only had 8 participants, and the 8 participants were not probably representative of the top 8 players at the time. Whereas this Worlds, I would say the top 16 is roughly top 16 players. Like, not exactly due to dropouts and some changes and people who are playing competitive or not, but I mean, it's a reasonable approximation. And I'd say, like, top 10, we definitely have all the top 10 players. Um,
Oh yeah, for sure. We definitely have the top 10 players right now. Gamer Snow though, in the mid tier you put?
yeah, I put him in the next up tier. I mean, I think, like, I've broken into tiers. So, like, the T3 is, like, you, Romomo, Zesty. The T2 is Ink, Loaf, Jay, Samurai, Truth, Gamer, Snow. Um, I think Snow, like, I put him below Samurai and Truth, and my rationale for this is that Snow is yet to show like a big tourney result, really. But I mean, he's growing really fast, so it's hard to put him at like a specific spot, right? If I were to like rate his peak, I think he could like be right above Loaf. But if I were to rate his valley, I would say he would be in the rest of the pack. Like if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like it's super high variance, and I think I'm more inclined to rate him closer to his peak given his growth and like the trajectory of that and his like mindset than I am like the Valley. But also at the same time, it's kind of hard because he hasn't had that many matchups against a lot of the other people here. Like if I look at the historical data, he really only has matchups against me, and I think he has like some matchups against you and Zesty, but obviously like those don't really show any clear differentiation from just the game results from anyone else on the table. And the matchup against me, even though I was let's say in a less than ideal state during that tournament, it like still
Hmm.
ended up 2-1 in my favor. But I mean that was a
Yeah,
while
I
ago,
mean,
so
yeah, Snow right now is he's quite monstrous. He beat X Shadow in Grands first, second person to win from losers in a tournament like that. It's behind me. So it's like really crazy what he's doing. I'm actually kind of excited to see what sort of sort of gameplay that he brings in 2024 because he has a similar mindset to Ink. He just has top player mindset. It just screams top player. And if he can bring that in 2024, I reckon that he can really make some upsets and make some of the existing top players besides myself because he's not beating me upset. He's really going to make people sad in 2024, I reckon.
I don't think it'll be that sad. I think like the era of Snow being a rookie is kind of way over. He's closer to being like a mega striker than he is a rookie, and he's extremely
Yeah.
talented. But I definitely think that the question for him is like, will he grow fast enough before and during the tournament to like make a deep run? We haven't seen him play against most of the rest of the top 8 in this list.
Yeah, he's just got to win. He has to win. If he can't win, then he's not going to make it anywhere. And he's got to, one can say that they're good and say that they can do this, they can do that. But you've got to win, really. And I've been gassing up Gamer Snow for a while now because I know that he can do it. And I say that he can be a contestant for top five because he can be a contestant for the top five. He's just got to prove it. He's got to go in the tournament. He's got to play the live events. He's got to show up, and he's got to win. And he's got to win. He's got to take good players, give him a run for their money, take games, take sets. Even if he can't do that, he's not really going to get anywhere in the MSVR scene. But I have full confidence that he can do it. If there's anyone who can do it, it's him. I reckon.
Yeah, but like I said, it's all about the timeline, right? Like, will that happen in this Worlds? Will it happen in next season? Is what we have to see. And I mean, I think the other thing too, not to like hate on X Shadow or anything, but I think that's a bit of an overhyped win. I think it's a big hurdle because like X Shadow was Snow's bracket demon, and it shows his adaptability and stuff coming from the losers run, right? And like good mindset. But at the same time, like I'm gonna be real. Shadow was knocked to challengers. Like he like is a strong player, but is he as good as the people in the top 8 on the list? I don't think so.
No, I mean we have to be honest there. He's not really as good as them, and Gamer Snow to be as good as them. Gamer Snow lost to X Shadow in winners, so I mean that's an argument.
But that was weeks ago. I mean, that's what I'm saying. His like growth curve is like so high right now, right? You can't just like I mean, even to take my win like way back in like October live, I feel like it's kind of almost not pertinent now because his game style is quite a bit different. And I mean, there's some things about his gameplay though, which are just like he still has some rawness to him. Like he misses a lot of perfect passes still, so the interception opportunities are really there. He really loves to double dodge when in jeopardy. Um, so
Yeah, he does.
it's kind of gone away a little bit. It's not as exploitable as it used to be, but it's still there. And like the perfect pass missing against like players like Truth and stuff who really are mashing the B button would make things like quite hard. And you can tell he's mashing the B button by looking at the MSBL stats. Like Truth has everyone else gapped in terms of interceptions. It's kind of crazy.
Hey, what about me? I'm doing the exact same thing. I am mashing B. Have you seen how fast I can mash a button?
Oh, I have
I
no
mash buttons so
I
fast.
have no doubt in your ability to mash the button. I was just saying the stat is kind of absurd when you look at the interceptions.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Truth is an incredible interceptor. Like I can't lob past him, and I can't lob in general. But what counts as interception spam is unfortunately the sad existence of interception dodging, which I hate interception
It
dodges.
it
They
doesn't
piss
counter
me
it
off.
though if you time the interception properly.
Yeah,
Like
that is true.
like if you intercept, that's
He's
why like
mashing it.
yeah, that's why like if you time the interception properly, you still get it. That's why the lazy interception dodging doesn't work quite as well anymore. Like you'll see it in terms of like stars and stuff try to interception dodge, and then you just pick up the ball, and it's like they're left wondering what happened. But the mechanic is definitely like a rock paper scissors or like a quick draw, right? You have to like time it.
Yeah, it's like a quick draw, really. And overall, yeah, I faced a player once, and I don't know who it was, but they kept going for it. It was like a player on the server. I don't remember who tried to do it versus me, but
It was
whenever,
probably me because I'm pretty lazy during friendlies.
oh nah, I'm talking like it wasn't even a lazy thing. They just knew. They were just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go for this interception dodge because he's not gonna get it. And I just felt insulted. I was
I
insulted
I
that
actually
they
have a
went for
play on
that.
the interception dodge, which I think kind of makes it more effective, but I think it's funnier. So I'll save it. I'll save it for Worlds. You'll probably see it. I was
Aha.
I was
We
using it.
will
I was
see.
using it in friendlies a bit, and it's kind of a funny way to work around the timing issue.
We'll see because I play Celeste. My timing is crazy good.
Yeah, I won't spoil it for fun, but it's a bit less about like timing. But anyways, in terms of the next on the list, like we talked about Snow, he's somewhere in this tier 2 category. Whether you rate him towards the high end or the lower end, kind of depends on how you feel he matches up. I think against the rest of the folks in the tier, um, and then rounding out this tier 2, I have the Cats, Samurai, and Truth. Um, I think both of them insanely talented players. Samurai at peak, took games off Zesty, took a set off Zesty actually, um, in
Yeah, that
uh
was
in live.
crazy.
And I mean, like obviously Zesty was coming off of like a few months not really playing, but still like no one else in the tourney really gave him a run for his money. So, um, but I mean, at its value, he lost to J Bangs Ness, who's still a really good player, and I think is pretty underrated overall. But still like uh, not maybe in the tier of like the tier 2 and tier 1 people in this list. So
Yeah,
we
he
have to
needs
see.
consistency.
I think it's kind of a similar situation to Blue Duck, like the dads of the server don't have as much active time to play. So it's kind of crazy that
Mm.
Samurai's even in this list. But like, yeah, we'll see what shows up at Worlds. I think if he shows up at peak, he could, give like Ink and Loaf definitely a run for their money. Um, and then
Yeah, for sure.
Truth is just absurd. You can talk about Truth if you want.
Well, truth. Like, I don't want to flame him too hard, but he does dumb shit. Just completely dumb shit in the game. And it's like, why do you do it? It serves no purpose. You do it for what? You're putting yourself at risk. Just calm down. And that's pretty much my opinion on truth because I hate playing versus him because he does the stupidest fucking shit that I've ever seen in my life. And it somehow when it works, because it shouldn't, but it sometimes when it does, it's like that was so dumb, and it tilts you, and then he scores more and more and more, and then it's like, well, he's bad now, but he's not bad. He's talented. He's got something for him, but once he like calms down a little bit and stops doing the random stuff like the Mario long shots or the little wall pass, self pass, like this isn't Mario Striker's charge, bro. I'm spamming B. And you're gonna dodge right into that ball as it lands off. Put yourself in jeopardy. You're gonna be close to the wall. And when you're close to the wall, what are you gonna do? Dodge again. I can just hit you. You're done for. And yeah, once he stops doing that, he's going to be way better, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. True, it's really hard to get a grasp on Truth's skill level to a certain extent in rated and such because he plays such a different play style in tournament and in rated and friendlies. But he's definitely just trying to get clips in rated and friendlies.
He
So
is.
a little bit hard to evaluate, but I think he has a solid enough play style to kind of be in this list, in this tier, and depending on how seriously he shows up. All right, and then
Yeah, that's right.
we have the rest of the tier. I think the most interesting characters from the rest of the tier are probably Richie Sticks and Trey Bagsness. Um, Richie because he's Richie. I think the reason I rated him in tier 3 is because I feel like his playstyle has been mostly found out by the server, at least by like the folks above him, and to a certain extent by the folks in tier 3 too. So like it really depends on whether or not he's able to sink his Birdo shots to the same rate he historically has. Um, and I mean, he struggled to kind of break top 5 after his initial tourney run too. Um, but
Yeah, it's crazy.
he doesn't play quite as much either. So like, there's a lot of rust factors waiting into here. I think he'll definitely. I don't expect him to take any games off the top 3. He could take games off of folks in the second tier because it's an extremely tilting playstyle to play against if you let Berta loose. Sticks
Yep.
has. Maybe you want to talk about Sticks because I think you've commentated a few of his games.
Yeah, Sticks, he's got potential. He has the reaction time, and that's going to really elevate him because most players in the game don't exactly have the reaction time that he does on the crosses. He can defend crosses, and if you can defend crosses, you can defend all sorts of other things. And I feel like that's his number one trait as a player. Overall, if he just gets a little bit more of the neutral game consistency, then he could be like really scary. But that means he's just got to play more. To improve your neutral, you've got to play a lot more Mario Strikers. And if he does that, then I reckon he could be probably reach the mid tier of those players.
Yeah, there's really only two things I think blocking Sticks. Number one, relatively smaller. Like some things in his play, like he adapts. I feel like a lot of things from my playstyle since I initially was his like coach. So there's a lot of blobs. There's some lazy like tap shots. So if the tap shots aren't falling, then his offense can like break in efficiency rather than just going for Titans, which he's pretty good at. Like he doesn't need to avoid taking the Titans. And then the second thing is just mental. Like, I mean, once he's out of it or tilted, he just really goes in on it. And I feel like if he can just keep an even keel, he could clutch and win like complete sets easily. And I think he showed that, right? Like he went 0-3 against Fredo in his qualifiers match, and then he immediately queued into rated and beat Loaf. So I mean, it's like the duality.
That's cool.
Yeah, the duality of a player, right? Like, I mean, that's where he's at his peak, but it's just about maintaining that peak level consistently. Um,
Yeah, he's got to do it, and if he can't do it, then he can't reach his goals. He's just got to calm down. Like if he calms down, because I was the same, I was the exact same mystics. I used to get tilted. I used to blame Boom Boom. I used to blame Birdo, and that's how I lost to Richie. I lost to Richie because I couldn't calm my shit down, and ever since then, I was like, I've got to calm my shit down. I calm my shit down. Now I'm top three. So it's like if Sticks can calm his shit down, then he can be something special. And he's got to realize that. The quicker he realizes that, then the better. And I feel like he actually is improving on his mentality. He said that he's been trying. So I have a lot of hope for the guy. If he really wants it, he'll go and get it. I think.
yeah, no, for sure. And then Jay Banksness, I think he's very underrated. I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I dropped a close set to him in groups of MSL. But then I came back. I learned from my mistakes. It was a useful exposure of my weaknesses. But I feel like club club players like Lukey Poo, Jay Banksness, they're always my weakness because they're just so consistent. Like even when you block an option, they'll choose the same option again, and you'll be like, nah, you're not gonna go for the same thing like third time, and it's like, no, they are. And
It's so true, though. You're actually so right. It's just brain dead. You're like, how? And then you get mad, and then it's like, ugh. It's just the worst thing ever. And they take
yeah,
one game, and then everyone's like, oh my god, he took a game. And then you win the rest of the set from exploiting their brain dead playstyle. And it's like, ooh, that sucked. To the next set. That's pretty much how it is. And I mean, it is what it is. You just gotta move on. And no offense to like the people that are brain dead or anything, but please mix it up,
well,
please.
I'll clarify here. I think like it's not necessarily like people aren't thinking about it. Like when I play Luki Poo, he clearly wants to play like Yoshi and stuff, so his playstyle is really oriented around that. I think like JBang's Ness, he's like club player 2.0. He's very Titans heavy. Um, just all his basics are really solid. Um, and he plays like pretty aggressively, which can throw off I think players, right? Like that's how he caught Samurai, and that's definitely how he caught me um, on my weaknesses in group stages. But then like once I figured it out, like in playoffs I won barely 4-3, but I won by winning the last two games. Like I finally realized what I was doing wrong, and then immediately in the next live event I went 3-0. So like once the fix is implemented, it was like helpful. But I think he's going to be a menace to a lot of players, especially rustier players in this list, because he just doesn't mess up. That's it. Like, and two, his mental game is so strong.
J Banks' mental game, you say?
He doesn't tilt. He's just like, he literally doesn't tilt. I was up 3-0 in that MSL playoffs. He had no problem, just kept playing the same, like, steady pace.
Hmm.
It,
Yeah, that sounds a bit scary. I haven't played in like the recent J Banks, but I will be excited to play him in group stage if I do meet him there.
yeah, and I think he has potential to be kind of like a dark horse in a group. Um, to really like take some wins, set wins, and if he like grows a little bit faster, could be up there. But I know he is like we talked about competing responsibilities, whether it's like fatherhood, like Samurai and Blue Duck, or other things. And I know Jay Banks is in school, so you know, we'll see where he ends up. All right, and then we
Yeah, we'll
have
see.
sorry, what's up?
I I was just agreeing.
Yeah,
We
and
will
then
see.
you can walk through the rest of the list, I guess. We have myself, Blue Duck, Momo, Trippy.
Okay, let's see. Yourself, I would say overall, I have a lot to say about lobs, and lobs. Obviously, as a B button masher, I counted them pretty well. I'd say the one thing that you really need to focus on is using the items on offense. You use so much items on defense, so it's like I can just dodge the item, and I may be like revealing my hand right now, but I'm really not that afraid of you, so it's okay. I'm really not. So it's like you you got to use the items more on offense, and if you continue to use them on defense, I'll just keep dodging them. I'll keep moving the way I'm moving. I'll keep getting my titans. I'll keep playing the way I want. So I feel like unless you fix the item usage, things aren't really gonna change. I think you might pull a few upsets, but it's here and there for you. That's my opinion, at least my honest opinion. As for the others, Blue Duck, he's got to stop spamming crosses. If he, please, Blue Duck, stop spamming crosses, please. And that's all I have to say about Blue Duck. And Momo, I haven't played the guy. I don't exactly know how good he is. It's actually quite surprising. I haven't played Momo before. It's very weird. And Trippy grinds the game, but he doesn't get anywhere. He's quite a confusing one, really. I don't know his grind set at all, but I don't know what he's doing wrong. Only he can know what he's doing wrong because he says that he plays the game X amount of times, X amount of days, and he just gets nowhere. It's like, so if he figures something out, then maybe he'll get something. But no offense to Trippy, but I don't think you stand much
I,
of a chance, mate.
I
That's
think
just my
I
honest
think for
opinion.
Trippy it's similar to like Sticks. It's mostly like, how consistent can you be in the face of like your opponent doing like cheeky things, right? Like, I mean, it's pretty easy to get tilted if like it looks like Boom Boom lets something slip or something. And also he takes a lot of shots with like Mario, similar to what you're talking about, Truth, like with Mario from a little bit far or like a kooky angle rather than going for the Titans. So it just like opens up to like a lot of offensive inefficiencies and things like that. Yeah, no, for me, the items thing definitely notable. That's something which like I definitely have to work on. The lob thing is just cheeky. I just think it's funny at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of like your trademark playstyle now. It's just HK lobbing everywhere, and it somehow goes in.
Well,
That's just how it
that's
is.
that SMS mentality. Like I played SMS for so much longer than MSBL that it's just like I'm just like lobs. They're so good.
Fair enough. They are pretty good in SMS. It's like the go-to on kickoffs and all that other jazz. Romo knows more about that stuff since he's like most definitely the best player in the world at that game. But yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, if I were to break this in summary, it's like tier one, probably gonna win it. Tier two has the potential to grow and like give tier one a run for their money, potentially. And then tier three have like blatantly exploitable weaknesses right now. In order to make it up. They probably won't compete with tier one unless like something
yeah,
magical happens, but they could play spoiler for tier two.
yeah. No offense to the tier three people, but yeah, you're gonna have to pull something through. Something.
I think that there's a good chance that some of the tier three people make it out of groups and basically spoil and like bring some of the tier two people out. That's basically what'll happen. Like there'll be some swap up.
Maybe. We'll see. I guess because that will be interesting. Not gonna lie.
Because I mean we're only the current plan is like four groups four, um, with top three making it third place to losers. So I mean some people are gonna make it out because there's only nine in the first two tiers. So three out of the tier three are gonna make it into groups, and maybe some of the tier two will be knocked down to losers. But we'll
Yep,
see.
we'll see. Yeah,
All right. I think that's it. We covered like most of the stuff. Obviously, for Worlds, you're looking to win it. Um,
yeah, I'm gonna win. I hope to win. If anything happens, then it happens. But if I win Worlds, that'll probably be the happiest point in my MSBL life. So that's pretty much all I need is to win Worlds this year. And if I can't do it next year, then it's like I don't know. I don't know at that point, but we'll see. We'll see if I can win. I'm pretty sure I will win. But yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll see. I think a lot of people are gonna be practicing boom boom nutmeg, etc., trying to gain any edge. Um, all right. Sounds good. Did you have anything you wanted to sign off with?
Okay. Let me think of something real quick. I I would like to say to hmm any of the newer players, you can always come to me. You can always ask for some tips, coaching. I will give it to you until you reach legend. That's when it's like I will probably stop because you get kind of threatening at that point. But I can train you up. I can't train all of you, but I can help you. And that's pretty much what I will do. That's all I will do. Is just help you to get up to legend. Other than that, I would say to the people who are below me at the moment, I I hope that you will come and reach the top soon, so that MSBL can be interesting for me. So yeah, no offense to all of you. I'm just pulling banter. I'm trying to spark you all up, and if you get sparked up, then perfect. Come, I'll be meeting you at the top. I'll be seeing all of you, whether that's this year, next year, whenever. I'll be there. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, we can wrap up then. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you on the next interview.